working to connect a region of over 600 million bridges between our lands.
Hello, I'm Alma Angeles. Welcome to ASEAN in Focus. We're coming to you live from Manila and Vietnam. Hello, Ralph.
Ralph Montalcantay bringing you the news in the dynamic Asean region.
On today's headlines.
That we had for the first time in the
A record 1 billion methamphetamine pills were seized in East and Southeast Asia last year, according to the United Nations, as crime gangs exploited the COVID pandemic and instability in the coup-hit Myanmar to boost their activities.
Over half of the meth seized in 2021 was meth tablets.
The Philippine Air Force said that two Turkish-made C-129 attack helicopters delivered to the country last March are now fully mission capable.
And Thailand reports its first case of monkeypox in an air passenger traveling from Europe who stopped over at an international airport in Bangkok for about 2 hours prior to transiting onto a flight to Australia.
After overseeing the rapid growth of ride-hailing and food delivery giant Grab, co-founder Tan Hui Ling is helping blaze the trail for a new generation of female tech entrepreneurs in Asia.
First, a record 1 billion methamphetamine pills seized in East and Southeast Asia last year, according to the UN, as crime gangs exploited the COVID pandemic and instability in the coup-hit Myanmar to boost their activities. Let's listen in.
That we had for the first time in the region, we seized over 1 billion meth tablets. This is a really huge amount. In terms of tablets, it might be hard to see, but if we convert it to tons, this is equivalent to about 91 tons of meth. So that's over half of the meth seized in 2021 was meth tablets. This in comparison to just 78 tons in 2020. The record amount of meth tablets seized in 2021 that were predominantly in the lower Mekong, predominantly in Lao PDR, Thailand, and Myanmar. When I say 1 billion, the exact number is about 1,007 million. So that's quite a significant amount. If you compare it to 10 years ago, that you can see here, that 10 years ago it was just about 143 million. If you go back 20 years ago, it was about 28 million. So you can see from 28 million 20 years ago to over 1 billion in 2021. That is a really drastic increase of meth tablets seized to be 2 years ago. So you can see even in just these 2 years, there's been a significant decrease in the price of crystal meth in the region. And this is concerning because if you look at meth purity in the region, it's still very high. So this means that there is increased affordability to high quality and high purity meth for users. Drop last year, I think if we look at different regions of Thailand, if we see the north of Thailand where a lot of the meth tablets are coming in, it's about $1 per tablet, and in Bangkok probably about $2 per tablet compared to $10 per tablet about a decade ago. So what we can see is that organized crime groups have really been able to push supply into the region to drop these prices, also possibly lower cost of manufacture. But it's very concerning, as I mentioned during the presentation, because this means greater accessibility to the drugs, greater affordability to drugs, especially among younger people who might not have had the purchasing power before now.
But fundamentally, we need the region to refocus its law enforcement effort. There's lots and lots of seizures being made and no impact being made on the business itself. Organized crime just keep cranking out the volume, replacing seizures with more product. The chemical situation is highly complex. There's no essential chemicals being seized, and they just continue to flow unabated, primarily through Laos into Shan State. We also have huge money laundering operations at play in the region. We have no attempt fundamentally at the end of the day to address demand, which is seemingly growing and can continue to grow because the price point of the drug is so cheap. So there has to be a huge change in approach in this region, or it's just going to continue to get worse.
Southeast Asia's so-called Golden Triangle has long been an infamous hotspot for drug trafficking. With Myanmar, Laos, and Thailand's porous borders and lax local policing, allowing illegal substances to slip across. The UN Office on Drugs and Crime, or UNODC, said law enforcement netted nearly 172 tons of methamphetamine, approximately 7 times more than a decade ago, and the surging supply has sent street prices in Thailand and Malaysia crashing to all-time lows. Myanmar's northern Shan state remains the region's primary source of meth, with the drug increasingly shipped to Laos, then Thailand, before reaching Malaysia, where it's trafficked onward to countries throughout the Asia-Pacific.
"31 people have been rescued and 11 are still missing after a ferry ran out of fuel and sank in bad weather off the coast of Indonesia," an official said on Monday. Local tugboats and fishermen brought many of the survivors ashore after the kilometer Ladang Pertiwi sank while sailing through the Makassar Strait in South Sulawesi province on Thursday. Head of local search and rescue team Junaidi said they are still looking for 11 more people who are still missing. Rescuers have deployed a helicopter and extended the search area to 20 nautical miles from where the boat sank in the search for the missing, Junaidi said. The vessel did not have a permit to transport passengers, he added, and both the ship's captain and owner have been taken for questioning. No official passenger manifest was kept, common in a country where crews sometimes sell illegal tickets past the ship's official capacity, but authorities have said they believe there were 42 people on board where the boat. Marine accidents are common in the Southeast Asian archipelago of around 70,000 islands where safety standards are off track. In May, a ferry carrying more than 800 people ran aground in shallow waters of Nusa Tenggara province and remained stopped for 2 days before being dislodged. No one was hurt.
In other news, President-elect Ferdinand Bongbong Marcos Jr. received ambassadors from Singapore, the United Kingdom, France, and the European Union during separate courtesy calls at the BBM headquarters in Mandaluyong City. First to visit Marcos was Gerard Ho, Singapore ambassador to the Philippines, at around 9 a.m., followed shortly by Ambassador Lori Buffels of the United Kingdom. Take a look.
What investors are looking at in the Philippines obviously are areas where this administration has worked on in terms of the tax incentives, the tax structures, the passage of the Public Service Act, the Retail Trade Act, the ease of doing business. These are all things that would provide comfort to investors when they come here, and we hope to see not only these things continuing, but as well as maybe making even further progress to make the Philippines a more attractive investment opportunity.
I'm delighted that I've just come out of a meeting with the President-elect, which was really useful, very informative and very warm. I was able to set out that the UK already has a really strong bilateral relationship with the Philippines, and indeed strong friendship between our two countries and between our peoples. For example, as you know, the President-elect is very focused on the economy and boosting the economy after the pandemic, and we were able to discuss what the UK has been doing in that space and what more we will do to support businesses, to support trade, support investments and infrastructure in particular. We spoke about energy and climate change and the UK's support in that space, in particular on energy transition but also on adaptation. We spoke about the peace process in Mindanao. We spoke about human rights and media freedom. And we spoke about the broad range of areas of mutual interest for our countries. And I said that I was very much looking forward to working with the next administration.
And French Ambassador Michel Bocuse. Both sides began by congratulating each other for the win of the president-elect and for Emmanuel Macron's re-election as president, despite a campaign concurrent with the conflict in Ukraine. Both sides also discussed the effects and impacts of the said conflict on oil, energy, and food security. President-elect Marcos cited France as a model for the PH in terms of energy sourcing and generation. Both sides discussed the economy and the plans in this area of the incoming administration. Some of the prospective activities to commemorate 75 years of Philippine-France relations were also discussed, and briefly discussed towards the end of the meeting with the Indo-Pacific area and strategy, as well as issues of overseas Filipinos in France.
At around 11 in the morning, European Union Ambassador Luc Véran also paid a visit, followed by Ambassador Michel Bocuse of France, who arrived at about 12 noon. The France and EU ambassadors declined media interviews due to prior commitments. Ambassadors from France and EU did not allow media because of those prior commitments. Last week, Marcos received the United States chargé d'affaires and the ambassadors from Japan, South Korea, and India during separate meetings at BBM headquarters in Mandaluyong City. The envoys also assured Marcos of their willingness to provide necessary assistance to hasten the country's recovery from the ill effects of the pandemic.
More cabinet secretaries who would take their post once President-elect Ferdinand Bongbong Marcos Jr. is inaugurated as the 17th Philippine president was announced on Monday, May 30, 2022. The president-elect's incoming press secretary, Trixie Cruz Angeles, announced these new nominees of the next administration, including broadcaster and media personality Erwin Tulfo as the incoming secretary of the Department of Social Welfare and Development. Let's listen in.
New designated cabinet nominees, the first of which is Maria Zenaida Angping for Secretary of the Presidential Management Staff. She comes with the professional experience in the fields of public service and administration and international relations and diplomacy. Is Mayor Cristina Frasco for the Secretary of the Department of Tourism. She is the incumbent mayor of Liloan in Cebu. She was awarded the prestigious Presidential Lingkod Bayan Regional Award by the Civil Service Commission. We have for Secretary of the Department of Budget and Management, Amena Pangandaman. She has over 2 decades of policy development in finance expertise. For Secretary of the Department of Information and Communications, the ICT, the nominee is Ivan John Enrile Uy. He's an expert in technology law, well experienced in information technology project management. As Secretary for the Department of Social Welfare and Development, Mr. Erwin Tulfo. He has been in the public service doing social work in 3 decades.
Angeles said all the announced nominees are chosen generally for their experience in public service and for their proven service record.
Liloan Mayor Cristina Garcia Frasco has accepted her appointment as the next chief of the Department of Tourism under the Marcos administration. In a statement, Frasco vowed to support the incoming administration's visit to revitalize tourism so it may significantly propel the Philippines' post-pandemic economic growth. Indicating her priorities once she assumed the position, she underscored the need for a strong partnership with local government units and tourism stakeholders, infrastructure, investment, sustainability and innovation, job generation, and social protections for tourism workers. She said she wished to thank Vice President-elect Sara Duterte for entrusting her with the honor of being her spokesperson, and she said she looks forward to serving with her and the President-elect as they usher in a new era of unity, prosperity, and hope for the country. On Monday, incumbent tourism chief Bernadette Romulo Puyat said the DOT transition team is ready to welcome and brief Frasco for a smooth turnover.
The two Turkish-made T-129 attack helicopters delivered to the country last March are now fully mission-capable. Colonel Maynard Mariano, PAF spokesperson, said this means that the air assets are ready for their role as strike aircraft, with the crew and the pilots done with the training and ready to be employed in areas needed. The two helicopters were declared fully mission-capable shortly after the Sanay Tudla 2 exercises held from May 16 to 24 at the Colonel Ernesto Rabina Air Base in Capas Tarlac were concluded. The T-129s are assigned to the PAF's 15th Strike Wing based at the Major Danilo Atienza Air Base in Sangli Point, Cavite City. The first two T-129s out of the 6 ordered from the Turkish Airspace Industries arrived in Clark Air Base, Pampanga last March 9. Mariano said the Turkish-made attack helicopters are expected to enhance PAF's surface strike system. The T-129s will be used for close air support for ground troops and armed surveillance and reconnaissance. The total contract price for the 6 units of T-129 helicopters is 13.7 billion pesos, which includes the logistics support and training of pilots and crew in Turkey. The T-129 is a twin-engine tandem-seat, multi-role, all-weather attack helicopter based on the Augusta A129 Mangusta platform and is designed for advanced attack and reconnaissance missions in hot and high environments and rough geography in both day and night conditions. Defense Secretary Delphine Lorenzana signed the contract for the acquisition of the Turkish attack helicopters in July 2020.
In other news, the Octa Research Group said the National Capital Region's reproduction rate has increased to 1.08 in the recent week, but the area remains under low-risk classification for COVID. Reproduction number is the number of individuals a COVID case could infect. Let's listen in.
Yung reproduction number tumaas na to 1.08 sa Metro Manila. Ang ibig sabihin yan ay may konting pagtaas na ang bilang ng kaso sa Metro Manila. May uptick tayo. Yung 7-day average natin this week from May 23 to 29 is 74. Mas mataas siya ng konti noong May 16 to 22 na 72 cases per day. So konting-konti lang tinaas. Pero yung pagtaas na yan, enough na para tumaas yung reproduction number to 1.08. Yung positivity rate tumaas din from 1.2% to 1.4%. Pero alalahanin natin, Yusek, na basta yung positivity rate ay less than 5%. Andun siya sa approved ng WHO. Ibig sabihin, low risk pa rin tayo. Tapos yung healthcare utilization natin sa Metro Manila, although tumaas ng bahagyang-bahagya, ay nasa 23%, mababa pa rin ito. Usually, mahirap ma-determine yung talagang yung specific factors, pero it's possible na yung mobility and yung yung possibly yung waning immunity, and then yung isang main factor dyan sa tingin natin ay yung panibagong mga sub-variant na na-detect na sa bansa natin, yung Omicron BA.4 at yung Omicron BA.2.12.1. Yung 2.12.1, nagkakos siya ng pagdami ng kaso ngayon sa US. In fact, malapit na siya maging dominant variant, sub-variant doon. At yung Omicron BA.4 ay nakita naman na sa South Africa. Actually, na-detect na siya sa US and in other countries. So, isa yan sa mga possible factors kung bakit may uptick na tayo sa Pilipinas. Pamaaga para ma-detect yung, or ma-determine yung trajectory na makikita natin sa next 2 weeks or even the next month. It's still possible na mawawala itong uptick, bababa ulit yung bilang ng kaso. It's also possible, Yusek, na magpapatuloy itong uptick pero mabahagya lang siya na uptick pa rin. At possible din na magpatuloy siya at baka lumakas siya, maging talagang pagtaas ng kaso, makikita natin. Sana naman hindi mangyari yan. Right now, it's too early to tell kung ano magiging effect kasi maraming factors dito. Yung ating wall of immunity, isa sa major factors dito. Kaya sana nanawagan tayo sa mga kababayan natin, hindi lang to practice health protocols, pero yung magpabakuna at magpa-boosters.
And the news continues here on Asean in Focus. Ralph and I will be back right after this break.
After 2 years, the Philippine Sports Stadium lights up once again for the biggest musical event of the season. We're bringing back the excitement, the loud cheers, and the electrifying music, featuring powerhouse performances from Verse 1, Aya de Leon, Bini, Calista, Christoph Someru, December Avenue, Dion, Glock 9, Magnus Haven, Matthias, and the Itchy Worms. Summer Blast 2022. Hosted by Bea Pinene, Maureen Shrivers, and Empoy Marquez. Don't miss the Grand Summer Musical Spectacle. Part 1 on June 4 and Part 2 on June 5, 4 p.m. to 5:30 p.m. Right here on Net 25. We're open for business, giving MSMEs the latest market trends and business opportunities. Open for business, only on Net 25.
Pinakulong mo si Tito Ivan, tama ba?
Ngayong linggo, ang nagtanim ng bala kay Ivan, alam na.
Napakahusay mong gumawa ng trap para sa mga tao. Anong gagawin natin doon sa mananahe?
Hindi siya maniniwala kung aakusahan natin siyang kasabwat ni Ivan. Paano kung palabasin nating isa siyang estapadora?
Habang ang bala para kay Clara, kinakasana. Hindi nila alam, ang huling bala ay para kay Maria Elena.
Hindi ko naiintindihan. Gustong-gusto ni Maria Elena ang oportunidad na kumita ng malaking pera. Pero ngayon, ayaw niyang maglaro.
Giovanni, ano kaya kung i-invest natin ng pera nang hindi nalalaman ni Maria Elena?
Palabra de Amor. Dito lang sa Net 25. Prime Time ng Pamilya.
Thai PBS World reports that the country has reported its first case of monkeypox in an air passenger traveling from Europe who stopped over at an international airport in Bangkok for about 2 hours prior to transiting onto a flight to Australia, where he later developed the symptoms. Head of the Bureau of Epidemiology, Dr. Chakarat Pitayawangan, said 12 crew members and passengers on that same flight who were in close contact with the infected traveler have now been quarantined in Thailand for 1 week. None of them have shown any symptoms associated with monkeypox, but they will be isolated for 21 days to ensure that they are safe. Lab tests on 5 tourists in Phuket, including 3 brothers from Ireland, who were initially thought to be infected with monkeypox after they developed blisters, showed that they were infected with herpes instead, according to Dr. Chakarat, and not monkeypox. Dr. Chakarat said that suspected cases will be subjected to tests, background risk checks, disease investigation, treatment, and quarantine until it's proven that they are clear of the disease. The infected will be given treatment and isolated for 21 days after diagnosis. Worldwide, there are now 406 confirmed cases, 88 suspected cases in 32 countries between May 27 and the 29th.
Meanwhile, Dr. Guido David explains monkeypox and its situation in the country and other parts of the world. Let's listen in.
Yung monkeypox, hindi naman siya kasing nakahawa tulad ng COVID. Sa pagkaalam natin, yung transmission nito, mas direct siya, parang direct body contact. At usually yung mga nakakuha ng monkeypox, nagpe-present sila ng symptoms, which are usually fever, tsaka yung mga rashes, yung mga bulutong. So medyo similar sa chickenpox. Actually, yung mga cases or yung mga mga kababayan natin na naabutan ng bakunahan ng smallpox, I think nag-stop yung smallpox vaccination in the late 70s, ay most likely may protection sila. Pero again, these are preliminary data. Yung sa nakikita natin sa monkeypox, hindi naman gano'ng karami pa yung nakita natin na cases all over the world. So hindi naman tayo gano'ng ka-alarm. Pero at the same time, kailangan handa tayo. And I think yung ginagawa naman ng Department of Health, yung mga hakbang to prevent this. So ang mahalaga dito, syempre yung isolation. Pag may makita tayong mga cases, kunyari galing sa ibang bansa na may symptoms, may fever at may mga rashes, ay ma-isolate agad natin at ma-treat sana nila. Kasi pag hindi sila makapanghawa ng mga iba, ay hindi naman kakalat itong monkeypox.
Opo.
Kahit sa mga ibang bansa na nakakapasok sila, at itong monkeypox actually endemic na siya sa Central Africa. So ibig sabihin, matagal na siyang na-detect doon. Hindi naman siya masyadong kumakalat. Kumaga, in terms of reproduction number, less than 1 yung reproduction number niya. So madali siyang pigilan na kumalat. Magiging sitwasyon, Yusek, talagang prevention lang pag may mga cases at kung may mga taong nakakaramdam ng sintomas, may fever, may rashes sila, ay mag-isolate na sana at huwag na tayo maki-interact sa mga may sintomas ng pox or ng monkeypox.
The Department of Education said the country is ready for a full and nationwide implementation of the face-to-face classes next year, but the modalities may still vary depending on their locations. At the Laging Handa public briefing, Education Secretary Leonor Briones said around 73.28% of the total number of public schools have already been deemed qualified for in-person learning. Let's hear more.
By June, which is already a few days away from now, sa next academic school year, ini-expect natin na fully 100% na talaga ang pag-implement ng face-to-face. Pero again, gusto ko lang i-emphasize na yung modalities ng face-to-face magkaiba sa mga iba't ibang sitwasyon ng mga eskwelahan at mga lugar at depende sa mga local governments at assessment ng Department of Health.
Ang ibig pong sabihin natin ay hinihikayat na natin ang lahat ng paaralan na magsagawa ng face-to-face classes. Pero tinitingnan po namin na blended, may face-to-face na mga araw at may araw na papayagan na nasa mga bahay pa rin natututo ang mga bata. Pero hanggat po, pag pinayagan na po tayo ng IATF na ang lahat ng paaralan ay magkaroon ng face-to-face classes mga ilang araw, bawat linggo, ay iyan na po ay isusulong ng kagawaran ng edukasyon.
At kasalukuyan, ina-assess ito ng mga regional offices at division offices dahil may mga request din na yung sa susunod na school year ay yung kasalukuyang setup ay baka pwedeng damihan yung mga grade levels at hindi lang yung grade levels na magbubukas, kundi pati na rin yung dami ng estudyante sa loob ng isang silid paaralan. But ito ay dapat na pag-usapan ng mahusay at
Education Secretary Leonor Briones, meanwhile, said there is a deep need to continue the digital form of learning to catch up with the global learning trend. Let's hear it.
Dahil halos buong mundo ay into digital na. Kaya ngayong catching up natin, hindi lamang sa iba't ibang bahagi ng curriculum, pero we'll have to recognize the fact na the world is getting digital. ay galing ako sa London sa isang pinakamalaking komperensya ng mga Ministers of Education at nakita ko doon na maraming bansa, digitalized na sila talaga. Hindi na gumagamit ng pera, cards na lang ang ginagamit. At kailangan ipaghanda natin ito, handain natin yung ating kabataan na masanay sila. While face-to-face is very useful, very important for their social as well as their mental and their, their personal and growth. Pero mahalaga din na makakatch up sila sa digital aspects. Ito, isang leksyon na malaking naturuan natin, naturo sa atin nung tayo ay umaasa sa blended learning. Dahil hindi naman tayo nagsara ng classes, patuloy tayo sa blended learning at saka talagang inumpisahan na natin yung digital learning. Kasi yun ang magiging mundo ng ating kabataan.
Vietnam has welcomed 172,900 visitors in May, representing a month-on-month increase of 70.6%, up 12.8% at times against the same period last year, according to the General Statistics Office, or GSO. In the first 5 months, Vietnam greeted 365,300 foreign arrivals, or a 4.5-fold rise against the same period last year. The GSO attributed the increases to tourism reopening and resumption of international flights to Vietnam on the occasion of the SEA Games 31. However, the number of foreign arrivals in May was 95% lower than the same period in 2019, when the COVID-19 pandemic yet broke out. According to the latest report on May 24, 2022 of World Economic Forum, the Travel Tourism Development Index, or TTDI, of Vietnam in 2021 was ranked place 52nd, up 8 places from 2019. The ranking of Vietnam's tourism industry is evidence of the country's successful management of the pandemic, its decision to reopen borders to foreign arrivals, as well as the vitality of Vietnam's tourism industry to recover and develop. Foreign arrivals entering Vietnam via all border gates have been no longer required to fill and submit health declaration forms from April 27. The Southeast Asian country also decided to scrap the COVID-19 test requirement for foreign visitors from 12 o'clock in the morning of May 15.
In other news, Thailand has also started to ease their COVID measures. From June 1, unvaccinated or partially vaccinated foreign travelers will no longer need to quarantine upon arrival. Here's how to enter Thailand. Let's listen in.
So first, for the entry requirements into Thailand, I'd just like to start off first by recapping which will be, there are requirements which are to be adjusted beginning on the 1st of June 2022. Just to recap this, number one is that all quarantine measures for inbound travelers will be lifted on the 1st of June 2022. All quarantine measures for inbound travelers lifted. Number two, Thai nationals who enter Thailand by air and by land will no longer need to register on the Thailand Pass. This is for Thai nationals. And number three, for foreign nationals, they will still need to register on the Thailand Pass system at the moment with a more facilitated process. So firstly, for fully vaccinated foreign travelers, having to provide the vaccination certificates, minimum of $10,000 travel insurance to cover COVID-19 medical expenses, and a copy of the valid passport. And for unvaccinated or not fully vaccinated foreign travelers, will have to provide the COVID-19 test results, RT-PCR or ATK, issued within 72 hours before traveling, the $10,000 travel insurance covering COVID expenses, and the copy of the valid passport. So on the 1st of June, foreign nationals will still have to register on the Thailand Pass, but with a more facilitated procedure. And of course, as time goes by, we will be having, of course, more relaxed measures for everybody. But the 1st of June, this will apply to Thai nationals first, no longer having to register on Thailand Pass. So we'll go step by step. Don't worry. The Thailand Pass QR code will be auto-generated as well. This is new. This will be auto-generated immediately after registration, which will be simpler. It's going to be more simpler and more convenient and, of course, faster for all applicants. The airlines are required to pre-check for Thailand Pass QR code prior to issuing the boarding pass to travelers coming to Thailand. And once they arrive in Thailand, travelers are required to go through the usual checks at the airport. For the Thai nationals, of course, as I mentioned, no longer required to register for Thailand Pass. Thailand Pass will function as a pre-arrival registration for foreign travelers, not an approval system anymore. However, of course, until the revised Thailand Pass measure does take effect on the 1st of June, Thais and foreign nationals are still required to register with the Thailand Pass system and seek approval from the system. So that's 1st of June for Thai nationals initially.
In other news, Asian market fluctuated Tuesday as investors struggled to maintain a global rally, with inflation continuing to niggle owing to a pickup in oil prices, while a top Federal Reserve official pressed for a series of sharp interest rate hikes. With Wall Street closed for a holiday, there were few catalysts to help extend the gains enjoyed in recent days, allowing inflation and borrowing costs to take center stage. Crude prices built on Monday's advance after the European Union reached a deal on a partial embargo of Russian imports as part of a punishment for its invasion of Ukraine. Brent broke above $122 for the first time in 2 months, and WTI was sitting around $117 as European chiefs said the latest sanction would ban purchases of Russian oil delivered by sea, though there would be a temporary exemption for pipelines. Asian equity markets swung through the morning. There was some cheer from data showing China's manufacturing shrunk in May at a slower rate than expected. Hong Kong edged slightly lower after 2 days of gains that saw it put on around 5%, while Shanghai was also marginally off. Sydney, Taipei, and Manila were also in the red, though Tokyo, Seoul, Singapore, Jakarta, and Wellington rose.
And we'll go on a break. Ralph and I will be back right after this. Stay tuned.
Welcome po sa WKC! Kumaon ka na sa nakakahiya ka.
Bakit ba? Nag-enjoy pa ako eh.
Enjoy na enjoy ka. Hindi pa tayo nagbabayad ng entrance.
Superhero ka ba? Oo, kinukutuban kasi ako. Meron kayong masamang gagawin.
Ito! Ano?
Hindi ako makapag-chopsticks. Tignan mo. Hindi ko talaga kaya.
Sige na nga. Susubuan na kita.
Hindi lahat ng pinapakita, totoo.
Ikaw yan, di ba?
Tohi! Pakiusap respeto mo naman si Miss Yunji.
Salamat, Bisana. Mabait ka pala. Bakit biglang magkakampi na kayong dalawa? Seryoso?
Mika, kung hindi ako yung tao na inaakala mo, anong gagawin mo?
At hindi lahat pinapakita ang totoo. Never twice. Dito lang sa Net 25, Prime Time ng Pamilya. After 2 years, the Philippine Sports Stadium lights up once again for the biggest musical event of the season. We're bringing back the excitement, the loud cheers, and the electrifying music, featuring powerhouse performances from First One, Aya De Leon, Bini, Calista, Christoph Someru, December Avenue, Dion, Glock 9, Magnus Haven, Matthias, and the Itchy Worms. Summer Blast 2022, hosted by Bea Pinene, Maureen Shrivers, and Empoy Marquez. Don't miss the Grand Summer Musical Spectacle, Part 1 on June 4 and Part 2 on June 5, 4 p.m. to 5:30 p.m. right here on Net 25.
Welcome back. The Association of Southeast Asian Nations, or ASEAN, and the International Red Cross and Red Crescent Societies, or IFRC, committed to promoting and developing engagement in the area of disaster management with the signing of the MOU between ASEAN and the IFRC on the strengthening of community resilience in Southeast Asia. Take a look.
On behalf of the ASEAN member states, I'm pleased to see the conclusion of this Memorandum of Understanding between ASEAN and IFRC on strengthening the community resilience in Southeast Asia. The MOU outlines the areas of collaboration between ASEAN and the IFRC in building a disaster-resilient ASEAN community, including disasters management, disaster risk reduction, disasters law, health in emergency, disaster relief and emergency response, gender, youth, and climate change. Investment in this crucial area form the structural foundation in buttressing the ASEAN regions against the new and emerging disasters risks. Today's signing of the MOU between ASEAN and IFRC on strengthening the community resilience in Southeast Asia demonstrate an important milestone for the ASEAN community building process. It celebrates the ASEAN-IFRC partnership, provide a reliable platform for future cooperation, and most importantly, promote ASEAN efforts to reduce disaster losses of life in the ASEAN region.
At the thematic session on breaking the silos toward multi-hazard, multi-sectoral approaches to managing risk on the 25th of May, a panelist from the Office of Civil Defense Philippines also shared ASEAN's experience in promoting multi-sectoral engagements among various sectoral bodies, centers, and entities towards the whole of ASEAN approach in building disaster resilience in the region.
The exchange of the MOU marks the commitment between ASEAN and the IFRC.
At the height of his career, Vietnamese hacker and Ngo Minh Hyo made a fortune stealing the personal data of hundreds of millions of Americans. Now he has been recruited by his own authoritarian government. He says to hunt the kind of cyber criminal he once used to be. Let's listen in.
Ngày xưa thì sống một cuộc sống xa hoa, nói chung là rất là sang chảnh, có được nhà này, biệt thự, rồi những chiếc xe sang trọng, nhưng mà luôn sống trong cái sự lo lắng và không bao giờ có một cái giấc ngủ ngon nào cả. Lúc nào mình cũng nghĩ rằng có cái người đằng nào đang suy sâu đang dòm ngó mình gì đó, đang muốn tìm kiếm mình. Có những lần là muốn tự vận, muốn kết liễu cuộc đời luôn cho xong. Nhưng mà khi mà rơi vào những cái hoàn cảnh như vậy là nghĩ tới lại gia đình, người thân. Cuối cuộc gọi là mình không có muốn trở thành một con người nó tồi tệ hay là một kẻ bất hiếu với lại gia đình. Ước mơ của tôi hiện tại là được giúp được nhiều người tránh bị lừa đảo, càng nhiều càng tốt. Sự thì đôi khi nhìn lại nó giống như một cái cuốn phim vậy đó. Cuốn phim hành động là trải qua rất là nhiều giai đoạn, rất là nhiều thăng trầm của cuộc đời, từ lúc tuổi trẻ lên trên đỉnh cao của sự thành công, của sự vinh quang, có được tất cả mọi thứ, rồi rớt xuống, rồi lại đi lên lại, bây giờ là đang mò lên lại thôi, đang mò lên lại, nhưng mà không muốn lên cao nữa, chỉ muốn đi vừa vừa thôi, trở thành một con người bình thường.
After serving 7 years in U.S. prisons for stealing some 200 million Americans' personal details, Hyo was sent back to Vietnam, which imposes some of the world's strictest curbs on online freedom. Hyo says he has since turned his back on his criminal past. Nicknamed Hyo PC when he was 12, Hyo was fascinated by computers as soon as he first laid hands on one. But he was soon racking up $1,000 fines for stealing others' internet connections for his own personal use. He began hacking into foreign bank accounts, netting up to $600 a day in high school, then using the money to study cybersecurity in New Zealand. Hyo was forced to return home in 2010 after hacking his university and selling students' personal information, and his illegal activity spiraled. In his 20s, he made $100,000 a month hacking and selling some 200 million US social security numbers. Then, in February 2013, he was lured to the United States in a sting operation and promptly arrested on landing. A report by the International Institute for Strategic Studies quoted Microsoft data from 2020, showing Vietnam had the highest rate of ransomware attacks in the Asia-Pacific region. His transformation, however, is complicated. Hyo says his new job involves educating Vietnamese citizens about the dangers of the same sort of hacking he perpetrated. He is also working on cybersecurity for the government of a one-party state that cracks down ruthlessly on dissent, harassing and arresting people for posting critical opinions online. Hyo also travels the country speaking at schools and universities about the importance of cybersecurity as well as the consequences of data being stolen. In other news, after overseeing the rapid growth of ride-hailing and food delivery giant Grab, co-founder Tan Huy Ling is helping female entrepreneurs in Asia. Tan, who in 2012 co-Singapore headquartered Grab, a household name in Southeast Asia, and now oversees hundreds of engineers, hopes to be a catalyst for change in the male-dominated sector. Let's listen in.
Especially in the Asian culture, for some reason or other, parents have been taught to think that girls won't do as well in engineering or software development or data science, which I think is very untrue based on the amazing female talent that I've seen at Grab and elsewhere as well. So if we can help break that bias, I think that will naturally lead us to more students graduating from STEM roles and courses, and that will then cascade into more individuals taking on leadership positions in STEM-related roles. I think I'm really lucky because I've never actually felt different by being a female in either of these industries. And I know I'm lucky because I know this isn't the case for many other females out there in the world. And I guess that's the role that I'm hoping to play to help create more of these environments where I was fortunate enough to grow up and experience, where folks, no matter what background, gender, physical ability or different abilities you have, just feel that they can fairly participate and add value in. The story behind Grab was we wanted to solve the taxi safety issues in Malaysia, and I have a very personal set of experiences here because I used to work really late in Malaysia, just because I was in management consulting, and often had to take taxis back home, which was an experience that I actually really dreaded each day because I always felt unsafe.
Drive hard. I drive very hard.
So how long have you been driving already?
4 years.
Wow. Overall, I think my unofficial title, which I gave myself, is as our plumber, the Grab plumber, because I love spending time on things that are critical for our infrastructure that happens behind the scenes. So plumbing is critical, When it goes wrong, things go really wrong. When it goes well, it's beautiful, and it always happens behind the scenes.
Tan grew up in a middle-class Malaysian family. The daughter of a civil engineer. She studied mechanical engineering in the UK before joining McKinsey in Kuala Lumpur. She went on to study for an MBA at Harvard, where she met Anthony Tan, no relation, and the pair came up with the idea behind Grab. He's now the company's CEO. A decade on, the company is now worth about $10 billion and offers services ranging from digital payments to courier deliveries, operating in diverse markets from developed, orderly Singapore to the traffic-clogged streets of Jakarta and Manila. The company faces unique challenges. She describes herself as the company's plumber. Her firm's local knowledge helped it to beat Uber in the region's ride-hailing battle, and it bought its U.S. rival Southeast Asian operations in 2018. Since listing on the Nasdaq stock exchange last year, the firm has lost nearly 3/4 of its value after reporting falls in its earnings. Despite the short-term challenges, Tan says Grab is committed to developing talent for multiple generations and hopes women will play a leading role in the tech sector.
How long have you been driving already? 4 years. Wow.
And that is the latest in the Southeast Asian region. Thank you very much for joining us, and thank you, Ralph, for keeping me company as always here on ASEAN in Focus. Keep safe.
Always a pleasure, Alma. And that's the latest news around the ASEAN region. Thank you for watching. Once again, this is Ralph Pandub Empire from EBC Vietnam Bureau.
And thank you for watching. I'm Alma Angeles. We'll see you back tomorrow. Same time, same place. Good day.